Welcome to the MRC Diversity Biweekly Talk Show. My name is McIntosh, and I am your host. Today, we're having a panel, and the topic of discussion is Asian student perspectives. And we have a lovely panel of student leaders to help us on this topic and pretty much go through this discussion.
Hello, my name is Khudadad, and I'm from Pakistan, and I'm a PhD student at the biology department.
Hi everyone, my name is Andrew. I'm currently the president of Land Phi Epsilon, Chen Incorporated, as well as events coordinator for the Chinese American Student Union, and also a very active participant in the Black Dance Repertoire.
Hi guys, my name is Marvin. I'm the executive vice president of Land Phi Epsilon. I'm also the social chair of Chinese American Student Union.
Hello everyone, my name is Tasmiah Rashid. I am one of the captains of Binghamton Musty. It's a Bollywood fusion dance team. And I'm also on the e-board of the Indian International Student Union.
So, just to start things off a little bit, we're going to start off with a video entitled Asian American Culture. So, audience, please enjoy.
But first, an overview. Pan-Asian Americans include people from over 40 countries, including China, Taiwan, Korea, Japan, the Philippines, India, Vietnam, who speak more than 150 languages and dialects.
मेरा नाम बोतो है, मैं इंडिया से और अभी मैं न्यूयॉर्क सिटी में 10 साल से यहाँ जैक्सन हाइट्स पे रह रहा है。
大家好，我叫郭文月，我是从中国来的，已经在美国居住6年了。
Each group has its own unique history, from language and religion to social and political views. New York City has the largest Asian American population in the U.S., making up 13% of the city's population. That's larger than the entire population of San Francisco. You'll also find large pockets of Asian Americans living in New York suburbs, Nassau County, Suffolk, Westchester County, and in New Jersey and Connecticut. The Asian community is the fastest growing race and ethnic group in the country, surpassing Hispanics as the largest group of new immigrants. In New York City alone, between 2000 and 2010, the Asian population grew by 30%.
Thank you, audience, for that wonderful video. And panelists, don't you think so? But now, I'd like to bring it to the panelists. What are some cultural traditions that you and your family practice?
Well, I'm Bangladeshi American, and so Bangladesh is a small country located to the east of India. A lot of people aren't aware that it's actually a country in Asia. But so Bangladeshis in particular are predominantly Muslim, and we celebrate in Ramadan and a festival or a celebration called Eid that follows. And it's celebrated a little bit differently in Bangladesh and in America. It's a big food festival essentially. And it's been a huge part of my family and my culture growing up. And I go home every Eid, every year, no matter where I am, whether I'm in school or doing something else. So that's been a big part of my family traditions.
Sure. Well, for me, like what Tasmiah said before, food is a very big part of my family traditions. But what you might not know is actually a lot of different foods symbolize different things. For example, we eat noodles, but the thing about noodles is the ones that we eat, we try to make them as long as possible, because the longer the noodles are, the longer your life's supposed to be. So the more long noodles you eat, the longer you're supposed to live. That's a little interesting. In addition to that, we also have traditional foods that we make on certain holidays. During specific days, Chinese New Year, you're supposed to eat like tangyuan, which is these little rice balls with like sesame filling, and then other days you're supposed to eat like dumplings. And there's little reasons between each one. I can't think of like everyone right now, but I would say that there's a story behind every single thing that we eat, and it's actually pretty interesting. And that's a really big part of my family tradition.
Pakistan is not much different from Bangladesh, except that it's a little bit different than Bangladesh because of the geographical differences. Like the Bangladesh is part of the India, and Pakistan is actually 3 regions. It's a country, but it is 3 regions. It includes Central Asia. It is a part like India, subcontinent, what we call, and then Middle East. so it's a very diverse country. But as my own family, we are a small minority inside Pakistan, like 500,000 in 180 million people. So we are a little bit different from the rest of Pakistanis. We are very close to the Iranian culture. We are Muslim, but we are very close to Iranian culture. The Eids are two big traditions, mostly concentrated around the food. So it's a mostly food festival, as we said. But we have another festival that's called Nowruz. Nowruz is the beginning of the new year, which actually begins by at the start of the spring. So the people go out, mostly it's going out of the city, and it's based on the flowers which is in the areas. This is the difference.
Well, personally, I'm from Thailand, and the country of Thailand is predominantly Buddhist. So every month we usually go to the temple and we pray with everybody. Everybody brings food and we all eat together. My parents have a statue at home of Buddha, and they pray to it every single day. They pray for more idealistic things, such as love, prosperity, rather than things like money. Because basically, my parents believe that greed is like the biggest evil that you can have. So we pray for just love and like happiness rather than money and materialistic objects.
Thank you guys for sharing that insight, and it's definitely, I would say, that heartwarming and understanding that even when areas are located close to each other, or people like with American views kind of try to lump it all together, it's like we do things very differently, and it's all special to us. So, in your perspective, what does it mean to be an Asian or an Asian American, whichever one you feel like you can relate with a little more?
I'll go first. Well, for me, I was actually born in China. I immigrated here when I was 4 years old. So, for most of my life, since 4 till now, I've been, Asian American, I would say. The difference, I don't know exactly if there's a big difference, but for me, it's like being able to embrace not just your culture here, like in the United States, but also able to embrace your culture back from where I'm from. I'm from China, so Chinese culture and American culture, and bring them all together into something that's completely different. For me, like, living in America has been like just a totally unique experience, because basically having my Asian background, like everything I do, everything I see is like slightly changed because of my own parents who basically grew up their entire life being Chinese, and being a Chinese American in America. You got to combine both, what your parents taught you and what you see in school. So being an Asian American is really just the fusion of both worlds and how to deal with it together.
I'm a Fulbright scholar, so I came from Pakistan like 5 years ago. Though our own city is also very culturally very diverse. There are people from around the Pakistan. It's very diverse, culturally very diverse country. But people usually like to stick together, so the city is segregated based on the cultures. When I came to the US, the difference between living in Pakistan and the US is here you see the same diversity, but it's not much segregated. It might be segregated in the New York City, but I haven't seen it in Binghamton. People usually, when you go into the buses, it's not segregated. You can sit anywhere very comfortably. Next to a girl, next to a boy, next to a Chinese, next to African American, next to anybody. This may not be the same in our own city. This is one of the biggest difference. The other difference is it's really hard to intermingle with the Americans when there is open party. Like, we don't consume alcohol. So this is another thing that keeps us still, people are open, but because of the consumption of alcohol, we usually stay away from such parties.
I'd like to go back to what Andrew said for a second about the fusion of both cultures back from your parents as well as where you're from. I was actually born in New York City, and I've lived in New York City my entire life, so I would rather consider myself as an Asian American. And it's actually like, I feel like it's just a big gift for me to be able to embrace both cultures. Growing up as an American, I get to meet people of different cultures, not just Asian, Spanish, Hispanic, African American, Caucasian, and just being able to embrace their cultures as well as diversify from them as my own culture. It's just a big representation of myself.
Similarly, I just think being Asian American simply means constantly living in a dichotomy and realizing that I have both my Asian heritage as well as my American upbringing to both uphold and make sure I'm like doing the right things for both cultures. I think as an American, it's been very important for me to practice and do everything that Americans should do, like vote. It's very important. I know people forget about that. But with an Asian background, I think it's really important to make sure I'm both making my parents proud and upholding my cultural traditions. And I think it's a rather difficult dichotomy to be living in because we live in a hybrid culture where, sometimes the lines are faded between what's Asian and what's American. And I think that's the beauty of it, and I think you guys would agree that living as an Asian American or any type of hyphenated American, I should say, is really nice because it's like you're living in two worlds at the same time. And I'm really thankful for it, and I love my culture.
Can I add a little? One thing that I really find it really interesting, because I lived in a city that was segregated, when I moved here, I saw that diversity based on the individual rather than the cultures. Yes, there is a differences between the cultures, but each individual is really unique. So I enjoyed visiting New York City especially. It's not because of the skyscrapers, not because of the parks, but because when you go to the New York City, you find people with really, really different backgrounds. So I see each individual with a very unique story, with a unique life perspective, and it just gives me like, say, there is just not a single life story. There are millions of life stories. Each one is worth living, and it's because you see the people is really struggling hard to stick to the life they have, and they are happy in them. So I really, this is one thing that I really learned in the US, I would say.
Something that Khudadad had brought up, I think that I would like to bring out a little bit more is, I know you guys spoke about like the dichotomy and that actually quite a few of you were actually born here, but did you find any difficulties maybe throughout like school life actually like with challenges assimilating into American culture? Whatever American culture may be.
You want to do ladies first?
Thank you. I think the only real difficulty was for me, and again, sorry to bring up things from the past, but I really didn't realize that I was any different than my peers until I got a lot older. So as a kid, I grew up in a small town in New Jersey, and I was the only South Asian or Asian American within my school. But I really didn't feel any different than the kids until I was much older, and people started asking me questions about my background and why I didn't go to church and why I didn't go to Sunday school or CCD, or and these questions of why I was doing things differently than they were didn't actually come up until like the middle school age. So growing up, I think the difficulty was when I started realizing that I wanted to assimilate. But in assimilating, I think it's really important to remember that, I had a little bit of difficulty figuring out which side I wanted to be. Did I want to be my Bangladeshi self, or did I want to be my American self? But the truth is, you don't have to choose. You can actually be both at all times, no matter how much difficulty people give you. And I think growing up, it's a little bit difficult because, kids don't really know how to phrase things or how to be aware of what is and isn't okay to be said to an individual. But as long as you remember that, I think it's a lot easier to deal with the problems that you face in school, which are inevitable if you're different?
Well, I had a kind of a different experience than what Tasmiah had. Since I did come here when I was 4, like I mentioned earlier, I actually had a lot more difficulty in my elementary school years. Basically, when I came to this country, I didn't know like a word of English, and I had to go through all the ESL programs and learn English all over again. And even like the Chinese Americans that were in the area, a lot of them spoke a different dialect. Some of you guys might not know, but there's like hundreds of dialects in China, and it just so happened that I'm a Mandarin-speaking individual, and the majority of the people in my school district were all Cantonese-speaking. So not only was I not really able to connect with my peers in English, but in Chinese as well. So it was actually a very upsetting and sad time for me when I was in elementary school. I just remember like even the teachers at that time, because my English was not as good as some others, I was often neglected. It wasn't the best couple of years of my life. So as I continued, as my English got better, I kind of strayed away from my culture. I'm not proud of that, but basically towards the later elementary school years into middle school, I basically had like almost no Chinese American friends. It was just all like, try to assimilate to Caucasian culture. The majority of the people attending the same schools I did were all like Italian Americans. So I began to talk like Italian Americans. Like you probably noticed I'm using my hands a lot. That comes from my basically my neighborhood when I was growing up. I lived in Bensonhurst, Brooklyn, and literally all my friends were either Italian or Albanian, or just like everything I did, I was pretty much just like all my peers around me. And it wasn't until late high school that I really started to identify with my own culture as a Chinese American. And honestly, I didn't join any like Chinese American clubs, even though they existed, until I got to college. And that's where I really found myself. That's where I learned to be proud of who I am as a person. And because of that, that's why I'm doing so much now. Like I just said before in my introduction, I'm president of my fraternity, which is an Asian interest fraternity. I've been on the executive board of the Chinese American Student for 3 years now. Like I'm kind of making up for all the lost culture that I missed out on in my earlier years. But I think the biggest thing that I really want to touch base on is like if you guys have a question, because I feel like the majority of people who don't know enough about Asian cultures, they may be ignorant to the fact about like certain details. But in my opinion, if you have a question about the culture, just ask it. Just be respectful and ask it. I'd rather you guys do that than for someone to assume like, oh, he's Chinese, he must eat dogs, like stuff like that. I'd rather you ask me, and I'll be like, not everybody eats dogs. I eat chicken, pork, just like everybody else. But like, I think that's the most important part. So honestly, if anybody has a question, and about a certain culture that you're not too familiar with, just ask, and you'll learn something new.
As I said, I'm a Fulbright scholar. So before coming here, the Fulbright arranged pre-departure orientations to tell us what kind of challenges you are going to face in the U.S. and you should be prepared mentally. So one thing that they mentioned was the cultural shock. They said anybody who moves from one country to another country or from one culture to another culture, you have to expect a cultural shock. I think this not have been true, but one thing that I found difficult, really difficult is the environmental differences between, especially the housing. When I came to the Binghamton and I saw every house are made of wood, that was really, really difficult because the wood makes noise. It makes you it's not easy to live in a woody house because we used to live in concrete houses. So you would not hear your neighbors. You can do anything, and you might not fear it might get burned. You might get put the house on the fire. So this was very difficult. Another thing is the kind of apartment that people start living here in small boxes, wooden boxes. So you have upstairs people, you have in the floor, and you have the downstairs, a lot of people. I mean, another thing was really weird to me. Sorry to say weird because I was coming from a different culture. So you might say it looks to me weird, but you might say, okay, you look weird to us then. So the weird thing is most of the people are living alone inside the apartment. and it was really, really difficult for me to think of it, because we used to eat, like 11 people used to eat on the same table. It's really unusual you eat alone. Like, it's offensive if you eat alone. So you have to be with someone to eat. In the evening, all the family members like together, they tell stories what they have done throughout the day. So it's really uncommon to live alone. It was really, really hard for me. But it was not really hard for me, but it was a hard thing to perceive not living, because I'm an introvert person. I usually like to write, and I'm really happy with myself. I don't need a lot of friends. But it's still, to perceive living in a woody apartment, seeing people living alone, it was really hard thing. Another thing was about the food. The food is really bland. So I stopped eating out. I started cooking myself. And that was really, really great experience, because I learned to cook. And now I'm proud of it, because I have done so many experiments. Some of them was failure, total failure. Some of them were really, really successful. Another thing that was, I would say, I should not say this is a problem because of the weather. Usually we have monsoon season. In the winter we have snow for a couple of days. It might snow, you might see snow on the mountain tops, but not in the valleys. So when I see no sun, always cloud, rain, snow. This is sickening, sorry to say it, because it
No, that was a shock for us too.
This is really, really sickening. So I would say the culture, I haven't seen the cultural shock, because I was not expecting the US as a Hollywood movies. I was not seeing I was not expecting Spider-Man on the streets or some other superheroes. Is one of the Americans told me that he watched the Pakistani movies, and he thinks when he comes to the Pakistan and they see the girls and the boys, they dances in the parks. It doesn't happen. This is just in the movies. So yes, there was not much cultural shock, but there was an environmental shock, I would say. Okay.
So we're gonna let Marvin speak.
Sorry. Growing up, I still live in a very affluent Hispanic neighborhood. When I was in elementary school, my elementary school was actually over 90% Hispanic, and the Asian population was less than 1% out of 1,000 kids. So there was literally only 10 Asian students, and I was one of them. Even worse, well, I wouldn't say worse, but I'm from Thailand, and in elementary school and middle school, people have no idea what Thailand is. So I've gotten everything. I've gotten, Indian remarks, Pakistani remarks, Chinese remarks, Korean remarks, Japanese remarks. People think I'm this or this or this. They never guess Thai. So growing up, I've gotten a lot of slur of insults and bullying back in the days, back in middle school and elementary school. I've gotten eating dogs, to smelling bad, to this, doing good in school, getting good grades, all that stuff. So I don't get good grades. Well, I do sometimes.
We try.
So it was the same idea for middle school, and growing up, it was pretty hard. So I'm not gonna lie, it was hard for me to embrace my culture at first. I tried to neglect it. I would consider myself as just an American. It wasn't until high school where I went to Bronx Science, and the population there is over 60% Asian. So it wasn't until then where I actually had a community of Asian American students with me that embraced their culture, that didn't experience something that I experienced when I was younger. That was really when I opened up to, like when Andrew said, back in high school. That was when I started opening up to my own culture and started embracing everything. In high school, I joined the Lunar New Year Club. So, and I joined the Filipino Club as well. And in college, right now I'm the vice president of Lambda Phi Epsilon, which is, like he said before, an Asian interest fraternity. And I am also the social chair of Chinese American Student Union. And actually, I wanted to bring up another thing. The big problem with, well, not a big problem, but an issue with being Thai is, being more specific, it's even a bigger minority as an Asian American culture. Back in high school, and even at Binghamton University, there's no club that could represent my own culture, so I have to join other Asian American, Asian interest clubs. I know that there was a Thai cultural club that started up last semester, but I think it died off. I tried to support it. I tried to run for e-board, and then I don't know what happened. So, yeah, that's another issue that I still face today, and probably will face for the rest of my life. Is just trying to identify myself with my own culture, but even then, it's really hard because the Thai culture, the Thai population is a huge minority.
So we're going to move on to another video. You're right? Yeah. Okay. And the video is entitled, "What Kind of Asian Are You?" So it's kind of like a comedic type video. It's a big YouTube person, so we're going to watch that now.
Hi there.
Hi.
Nice day, huh?
Yeah, finally, right?
Where are you from? Your English is perfect.
San Diego. We speak English there.
Oh, no. Where are you from?
Well, I was born in Orange County, but I never actually lived there.
I mean before that.
Before I was born.
Yeah, like, where are your people from?
Well, my great-grandma was from Seoul.
Korean. I knew it. I was like, she's either Japanese or Korean, but I was leaning more towards Korean.
Amazing.
Yeah. Hamshasina. There's a really good teriyaki barbecue place near my apartment. So I actually really like kimchi.
Cool. What about you? Where are you from?
San Francisco.
But where are you from?
Oh, I'm just American.
Really? You're Native American?
No, just regular American. Oh, well, I guess my grandparents are from England.
Oh, well. Hello, Governor! What's all this then? Top of the morning to you. Let's get a small tea. Double, toil and trouble. Mind the gap! Beware, Jack the Ripper! Bloody hell! Pip pip! Cheerio! I think your people's fish and chips are amazing.
You're weird.
Really? I'm weird? Must be a Korean thing. Fish and chips, pheasants, clotted cream, bangers and mash, Guinness, ploughman's lunch, a spot of tea, a pint of ale.
That sounded very scary.
Well, I think we all had quite the laugh, and she definitely got back. But now I kind of want to bring it to the panelists. We kind of hinted upon this before we actually got into it. But now, one, how did you feel about the video?
Can I? Like you said, we hinted on it before. And as I mentioned earlier, I'm Bangladeshi American. And Bangladesh is a country that is not only overlooked but misunderstood completely. It is a separate country. It does exist, I swear. I've been there. And so, when people see me, they just assume I'm Indian, which I'm not. I am not Indian. My parents are not from India. And like that, they just look at you, and whether you're from, any type of South Asian country, whether it's Sri Lanka or Bangladesh or Pakistan or India, people just automatically lump you into you're Indian. And if they can't, pinpoint exactly what you are, they'll ask you, what are you? My response is usually, I'm human. What are you? As Andrew said earlier, if you have a question, if you really want to know what someone's ethnic background is or where their parents are from, ask it in a way that you're not offending everybody who you're asking that question to. And so I think it's a really difficult position to be in because not everybody is ignorant. I think it's wrong to say that everybody's ignorant because sometimes people just don't know. And I'm very well aware of that. And I'm sure I make mistakes like that myself as well. But even though it's true that not everybody's ignorant, it's also important to make sure that when you're asking someone what their ethnic background is, what their cultural heritage is, whatever it is, that you're making sure you're doing it in a very respectful way. And if you're not aware of what you're asking or who you're asking, then, don't assume. You should never assume, because that's a part of stereotyping, is assuming that someone's something that they're not. So growing up, I think that was my biggest frustration, is that, even in college, I am one of the captains of Binghamton. We're a competitive dance team. We travel all over the country to perform and not only spread, South Asian dance and its cultural heritage, but also we perform every single weekend here on campus. Until this day, people are unaware of the fact that, Bollywood is indeed an Indian dance form, but it's an amalgamation of a bunch of different dance forms from all over South Asia. So, that being said, even in college, I always get the question, Bangladesh, that's in India, right? Or so on and so forth. So, if you don't know, ask respectfully. My only request to everybody out there.
So wait, before you pass it off, I want to actually just throw another question that you guys can also respond to. So what is the most compelling Asian stereotype you received growing up, and how did you respond to it?
I'll keep mine quick, yeah. So the biggest one that I have received is that I'm very good at math. Growing up, ever since I can remember, everyone's always assumed that I was very good at math and very good at science. And I was just a nerd, growing up, whether it be teachers, whether it be administrators, professors, people who are getting college degrees, so on and so forth. Everyone just assumed I'm very good at math. I encountered a friend my freshman year who was so excited to be my friend that she finally had someone who can tutor her in math. I will have you know I'm horrible at math. I'm absolutely terrible at math, and I'm not as terrible at science, but I'm pretty bad too. I like to write. I'm an anthropology major, and so it's one of the biggest stereotypes put on, lumped as Indian, but I think it's just something that's given to a lot of Asians in general, that you're very good at math, you're very good at science, you're going to be a doctor, an engineer, so on and so forth. So, just
First off, I like to say that video was hilarious.
Yeah.
Secondly, to address the second question, for me, basically, like when I was growing up, I had a rough childhood, so in the beginning, all the stereotypes about Asians got small eyes, good at math, can't drive, all that stuff, they really bothered me. But then when I got to college, I couldn't care less anymore, because a lot of things, I am good at math. And I do have small eyes, and nothing to do about it, but a lot of girls like small eyes, so I don't think about that either. And as for the driving part, I've been driving for 3 years, I haven't got one traffic ticket. How many traffic tickets have you guys got? So, I just got over it. It wasn't anything anymore. It's just if ignorant people want to be ignorant, then let them be ignorant. It's not going to affect me. I'm a successful student. My life is on track, so I'm not going to let that stuff bother me. So, and to answer your question, which one's the most compelling, I would say none of them really for me, because none of them bother me anymore. And also, can you repeat the first question again? I'm sorry.
Okay, so it was just how did you feel about the video?
I had something in mind. Give me 1 second. I'm sorry. Does someone else speak about this? I'm sorry.
I have a little bit different experience, because my facial feature is different from the rest of Pakistanis. It occurred 2 times. One time I was in the Central Park in New York. There, a lady came to me, and he was really pleasant. So he had a cake with flowers. I had a cake with the flower, but it was so she connected this and said, "Okay, you like the flowers?" And we talked a lot, and then she said, "What do you from?" I said, "From Pakistan." And then she stopped talking to me. This was really weird. Another time, there was another guy. We talked a lot about it, and then he asked me, "What are you from?" I said, "I'm from Pakistan." And on my cake again, there was a name with an X. So he said, what these symbols mean. I said, it doesn't mean anything. I just liked it and I just bought it. It doesn't connect to me. It doesn't explain. So there is a concept in people. When people think me as an Asian, they don't feel difficulty approaching, talking. But once they find that I'm from Pakistan, they get terrified because you know the image that we get. But another issue is from Pakistanis. Usually the Pakistanis don't think that I'm Pakistanis. When I speak Urdu to them, they get like, what did you learn from? Where did you learn from? I said, I'm from Pakistan. I was born in Pakistan. I was raised in Pakistan. So they usually think that I'm from some sort of Central Asia, which my ancestors are, not me. So I think most of the Pakistanis have this difficulty because of the image that they get from Pakistan.
I'm ready now. So I lost my train of thought with asking the question of what are you, right? I usually have two responses. Usually if they're an Asian American asking me what I am, I usually mess with their heads a little bit because I've been told I look kind of Korean, so I usually let them think what they want to think and then just spit a little bit like Korean to them and they'll get fooled and like, I knew you were Korean. And then about 5 minutes later, I'm like, I'm actually Chinese. So that humbles them down a little bit. My second response would be like that I'm Chinese American. I was born in China. I was like, oh, you have perfect English. I'm like, yeah, of course I got perfect English. I was here since I was 4. I don't know how long it takes you to learn English, but I was able to do it in that time. And then I give them a whole speech about my culture and all the things I do until they're bored to death. And then, then I go to them and be like, well, you asked for it, so there you go.
So pretty much we're going to move on to, I know that a lot of you guys are actually very, very involved on campus. So my question is, in regards to the cultural student organization, whether it be a fraternity or not, what are some challenges that your group has dealt with? Or maybe had to overcome with the Binghamton campus, or do you feel like it has been an issue in the past, or how do you respond to that?
So I am on the E-Board and have been on the executive board of the Indian International Student Union for all 4 years of my college career. And I think the most difficult part is that, again, I'm not Indian, but I am South Asian. And as Marvin touched on before, it's a little bit difficult to find like those cultural niches that are very specific because I'm a minority within a minority. But at the same time, there are so many cultural similarities, and I'm a part of the E-Board because it's Indian International Student Union. It's the idea that everybody who comes from a very similar heritage gets together and tries their very best to hold on to their cultural traditions in this really fast-paced, technologically advanced society we live in. And in terms of, that's a little bit difficult at times because I think I get a lot of personally from people around me for not being a part of other organizations that are closer or more specific as my culture is. But I love the mission that we have, which is to spread culture, South Asian culture throughout. And I think it's really important because you have to start somewhere. So although someone may not know what a Bangladeshi is, I hope that they do know that it's a part of the South Asian subcontinent. And in terms of being on campus, I think the biggest difficulty really is that I think people are just unaware and people are unavailable. I think people just don't want to know and they don't care if it doesn't concern them, whether it be a professor, whether it be an administrator, whether it be another student organization. If it doesn't involve them, they're uninterested and they're unwilling to learn. And that not only hurts me personally and drives me crazy as an anthropologist, but I really think it's just something that needs to be addressed, not only in Binghamton, but universally. But Binghamton is such a diverse university. There are people from every culture you could possibly name. And so I think people just need to take a genuine interest in what's around them. So if you're going to this university and there's an Indian International Student Union, there's Buja, which is Japanese Association, there's KASU, there's the Korean Student Association, there's HASA. You know, there's so many different organizations. I think it would be worth your while to just go there and try to see what organizations are even present on your campus. And it'll make you just a little bit less unaware of your surroundings when you get into the real world.
Being from Lambda Phi Epsilon, we're part of the Interfraternal Council, the IFC, and when we have our meetings, we're pretty much known as like the little Asian guys, you know, like we're like the whatever. We don't have much influence or anything like that. We're just there. We're an Asian interest fraternity. However, we're not Asian exclusive. So when we try to recruit, that's a big problem on our part, because when we try to recruit like when we try to recruit people who are of different descents, such as Caucasian or African American, they would rather go somewhere else rather than get to know us, even though we're not exclusive to just Asian people. So that's always been a big problem for us. Many of our brothers, if not like all of them, maybe like select one or two, have all been Asian. We have chapters all over the country, and there are many Caucasian brothers, African American brothers, etc., from different descents. So that's been a big problem with our fraternity on campus, where we try to reach out to other different cultures, and they just have a small bias against us that they'd rather go to their own culture rather than experience our own.
Just to clear something up, being part of the Interfraternal Councils, we're not seen as the small little Asian guys. They honestly feel a lot of hospitality from the Interfraternal Council. Most of them really enjoy our presence being here. We bring diversity to the group, and being the only Asian interest fraternity in the Interfraternal Council, that's what the real difficulty is. A lot of the large predominantly white fraternities, they recruit a lot more people than we do, and it's pretty difficult, being that there's already 2 other Asian interest fraternities on campus, and the pool of Asian Americans who are willing to become Greek is relatively small. So that's the main challenge. So that's why as president now, I really wanted to diverge and recruit people of other races in the fraternity, which I feel like a lot of times people are just shy and not comfortable, but I feel like people should be able to get over that and join new things. Which brings me to my second point, part of the Black dance repertoire, and I'm the only Asian in that group. And there's always only ever been one other Asian before me, but I take great pride in it. I love being the only Asian there. Slightly I'd be kind of offended a little bit. I'm just joking, but I really like what the team stands for. I really like the dance form that we do. I feel like, honestly, if there's a group out there, whether it be ethnic or not ethnic or whatever, if you feel like you want to be part of it, you should just go and do it. As a kid, I was really shy. I didn't really want to join a lot of groups and stuff, and it took me a long time to assimilate with others. But especially between my high school and college years, I began to become more confident. And although it might not be genuine at first, the more confident I appeared, the more confident I felt about myself, which allowed me to basically, give off this, cocky attitude, but then deep down actually helped me out too, that I became more confident and more willing to join more things. And that's one of the reasons I actually did all the things that I'm doing right now. I used to hate public speaking, and I just can't get enough of it. So I'm just saying, if you're out there and you generally take interest in ethnic organization, whether it be a fraternity or a Chinese student union or whatever it might be out there, just go out and try it, because that might be who you are. Don't let race or ethnic backgrounds stop you from being who you are.
Unfortunately, I'm not part of any student organization, just because maybe I didn't think that I needed it. So there was, I met only 4 Pakistanis in the whole 5 years, in the 5 years that I have been, and the meeting, the reason was just the housing, because if somebody is new, they have difficulty in finding, so the international office just find a Pakistani here and there, and they just send to each other. That was the only thing. There was not enough Pakistanis that, there was and also from Fulbright point of view, there was only few Fulbrighters, international Fulbright students here. We tried one time to make a student organization, but it failed because the Fulbrighters didn't show up, maybe because the students are too busy. Another thing is, I just connect because there's Indian student organization. So I'm not part of it, but sometimes they organize some really good events, like they dancing, sometimes the food, especially the Diwali one. So I really like because it's the same. So the dances are the same, the foods are the same, the people speak the same language. Sometimes I really surprise even Indian students when I speak to them in Hindi. I get surprised. This is the
Just one last little tidbit. I think what is most inspiring about being part of the Indian National Student Union is that exactly what explained is that, you know, when we all get together, whether it be the girls on my dance team who are from various different backgrounds all over South Asia, or the International Student Union for our annual show at Tamasha, we all forget about our differences, whether they're specific, whether they're big, and we all come together because we realize that we do have a lot of similarities. And we get together and put on shows and events that really try to bring in the outside. Because I think there's one of the bigger issues I think on this campus is ethnic exclusivity. I think people are very scared to like branch out of their own groups and their own cultures. But I mean, not to say that we're leading by example, but I think, you know, being part of MRC, it was started by 2 Indian girls and I believe a Chinese girl. So, and then, you know, every year we have people from different backgrounds coming in and out of the team. And again, ESU itself, we have people of all different cultures participating in our dances. So I think, and everyone who comes into it says that they have a stellar experience. So I think it's really important to make sure that it's good to be comfortable in your own skin and comfortable in the friends that you make because you guys have similar backgrounds. But it's not that scary if you venture out.
So this is our final question, and I actually want the audience to kind of like take this away with them and the panelists to answer if you guys have anything to say about it. What do you think that Binghamton University can do or needs to do to continue pretty much promoting Asian culture on campus?
Can I answer?
I think this show is one example. It's like 5 years that I have been here. Maybe there have been such shows, but I have not been aware of. One thing is the dialogues especially, and another thing is the celebrations. So there are a lot of events that it's common among the Asians culture, especially like the Chinese New Year. They celebrate because there's a lot of Chinese students here. There's might be Diwali, like because a lot of the Indian students are there, but there are not a lot of Pakistanis here. So there might be some. So they might think that they are marginalized. Sorry to say this word, because there's not a lot of Pakistanis, so we miss a lot of the events. And even if we try to come up with such events, we cannot because there's only a few students here. One thing that the university can do to help them, like to ask them if they like to organize or give them some help or some support to organize such events. Like we don't have any Eid events. I think there's a lot of Muslim students here in Binghamton University. They have Muslim Student Association here, but we don't celebrate Eid like officially. When I say officially, I mean like people do not celebrate it on the campus. They celebrate like in the mosque or somewhere like privately. Another thing that there's this common between the Iranians, between Tajiks, like people from the Central Asia usually, it's called Nowruz, the New Year, or the Nowruz, the Persian-speaking belt in the Central Asia. I haven't seen him. I met a lot of Iranian students here, but we do not see such events. So maybe this is some sort of that other students might learn about the Persian cultures or the Persian-speaking cultures or Pakistani cultures or the Muslim culture, because they are the part of the Binghamton University.
Well, I think the biggest part is the continued supporting organizations like the MRC and other groups that help fund all the student organizations. I feel like that's a very big part. There's only so much money you can fundraise by yourself, and I feel like all these grants, all these scholarships, and all these funding that these organizations have to offer to these ethnic groups, I feel like it's really, really helpful. Because I know as events coordinator for CASU this year, we're trying to plan a big event, China Night, which is on April 26th. And honestly, like getting everything together, getting costumes, getting teachers, getting choreographers and everything together, it's very costly. And, sometimes we go over budget and we don't really know where to get the funding from. And thankfully, ICA and MRC have been able to help us out. And, it's a really big help. I think that's very, very important in supporting cultural awareness on campus.
I actually feel like the university is doing a lot for the cultural groups, but the biggest problem that I see is I feel like in the end it's just on us to actually break out of these shells that we include ourselves in and just explore the world and explore the opportunities and other clubs that Binghamton University has to offer. Because obviously a lot of us know about the other clubs, like all the other different cultural clubs that there are and all the events that they host, but how many of us have actually been to those events? Personally, I try to support as many groups as I can. I've been to a plethora of different events and for different clubs as well, not just Asian subgroups, but I've been to a few events from the Caribbean Student Association. I've been to these events. I try my best to be all over the place and just explore everything that Binghamton University has to offer and that clubs have to offer as well. So I feel like in the end it's just on us because we know that these clubs exist, but and the university does do a lot to promote these events on campus. They have posters all over the place. They send out email blasts. They have Beeline. But I feel like in the end, it's just on us to actually go to these events and just check out what they have to offer.
No, I couldn't agree more. I think the university really does do a very good job thus far. But I think the biggest issue is trying to cater to a larger audience, both from within the clubs themselves, as well as outside organizations. And I know the MRC tries its very best to do exactly that and kind of, put out the word of exactly what's going on in the cultural circuit, whether it's a show, whether it's an event. But I think it needs to be larger than the MRC. The MRC can only do so much, and they do so much already. I think the biggest thing is really catering to and trying to advertise to a larger audience because, like I said earlier, Binghamton University is a really diverse university and institution, and it would just be really nice if I personally knew more about, events that were not catered to my audience, So, ECU might not know what's going on in an event in the CASA or CASU circuit or so on and so forth. So, I think a lot of times student orgs tend to just cater to the audience that they normally get. But maybe if the university helped us out in trying to circulate our advertisement and trying to get an audience that's a little bit more diverse would really help out so that everyone gets a chance to see everything.
So I would like to thank you all. I think this has been an amazing discussion, and we have gone and touched on so many different levels that we all could have related with. So just something that I want to leave with you guys, and especially with the audience, is that it starts with us. And when I say that it starts with us, something that they really pointed out is we cannot truly take advantage of all the resources, and not only resources, but all the events and cultural activities that are going on unless we decide to say, you know what, I want to be open to this. Because things can pass us each and every day, but if we do not kind of make the time or just say, you know what, let me bring a friend with me, which is always, I feel the best thing. Once you meet friends in different communities, it becomes natural. Let me support this, let me continue to reach out. And I just want to leave that with you guys. So please connect with the MRC on Facebook. go to Multicultural Resource Center at BU and like the page to pretty much know what's going on with the multicultural organizations as well as offices throughout campus. And if you would like to be on the MRC Diversity Biweekly Talk Show with me, oh yeah, then please send an email to the program coordinator. Her name is Meng Chen Huang, and it's spelled MHUANG at binghamton.edu. And we thank you so much, and our lovely panelists for joining us, and you have a great evening.
Baby, you just look at me, look at me, look at me. You don't wanna talk.
문제야